All right, today's notes are section 1-4. We're talking about pairs of angles. So our objective is to identify adjacent, vertical, complementary, and supplementary angles, and then find measures of pairs of angles. So we start off today with a few definitions, so I want you to go ahead and write down these definitions, pause the video, do whatever you need to. All right, the first definition is of adjacent angles. We're talking about two angles with a common vertex and a common side. So any two angles with a common vertex and a common side. So I could be looking at angle 1 and angle 2. They have a common side and they share this vertex. I could also be talking about angle 6 and angle 7. They share this common side right here, and then they share this vertex. So it's any two angles that are basically touching each other and then have the same vertex. The next one, linear pair. When I'm looking at a linear pair, I'm looking at a pair of adjacent angles whose non-common sides are opposite rays. So let's look at an example up here in our picture. If I'm looking at angle 2 and angle 3, they're adjacent because they share this side and they have this common vertex. And their opposite sides, their non-common sides, this one and this one, form opposite rays. So I could say that angle 2 and angle 3 are linear pairs. I could also say angle 8 and 11 are linear pairs. They're adjacent because they share this side and a vertex, and their uncommon side, this one and this one, form a straight line, or form an opposite rays. So basically, it's any two angles that when I put them together, they form a straight line. It can't be more than a straight line or more than two angles. The next definition is vertical angles. It's two non-adjacent angles formed by two intersecting lines. So if I look at this picture up here, angles 2 and angle 4 would be vertical angles. They're not adjacent because they have no sides in common, but they are formed by this line and this line. They're like across from each other. So angle 2 and angle 4. Over here in this picture, maybe 17 and 15 would be vertical angles formed by these two intersecting lines. And there's a lot more in these pictures. I'm just naming a couple. So when I'm looking at vertical angles, I'm looking at angles kind of across from each other. Alright, complementary angles. Complementary angles are two angles whose measures have a sum of 90 degrees. So I'm looking for something that forms a right angle. So if I go back up to my picture, I can see that angle 1 and angle 2 form a right angle right here, 90 degrees. So I could say that angle 1 and angle 2 are complementary. If I have an angle over here that's 30 degrees and another angle that's 60 degrees, I could say that these two angles are complementary because if I add the 2 degrees together, I would get 90. And the last definition is supplementary angles. Two angles whose measures have a sum of 180 degrees. So I'm looking for two angles that when I add them together, they equal 180. So back up here on my picture, I could say angle 4 and 3 because I know that a straight line is 180 degrees and angle 3 plus angle 4 would give me a whole straight line. I could also say something like angle 8 and angle 9 because these two together would form a straight line at 180 degrees. So angle 3 and angle 4 are angle 8 and angle 9. So if I'm looking at a picture, if I have an angle that's 120 degrees and another angle that is 60 degrees, these angles will be supplementary angles because they have measures that sum up to 180 degrees. All right, so let's look at the next page of our notes. at the top it says find the complement and supplement of each angle. So let's start with the first one. If I'm looking for the complement, that means I'm looking for the other angle that when added to this would give me 90 degrees. So 26.8 plus some other angle should equal 90 degrees because that's what complement means. So to solve for x, I just subtract 26.8 from both sides, and I get that x is equal to 63.2 degrees. So the complement would be 63.2 degrees. The supplement is when two angles add up to 180. So this 26.8 plus x has to equal, instead of 90 for complement, for supplement it has to equal 180. So again, we subtract 26.8 from both sides, and we get that this other angle is 153.2 degrees if I'm looking at its supplement. Well, let's look at this next one. This one says that angle N is equal to 2y plus 20. And I'm looking for its complement first. So if I'm looking for its complement, I know that this angle plus this angle plus my other angle has to equal 90 degrees. So in this case, I'm solving for my angle right here that I want to know what its degrees are, so I need to subtract this 2y plus 20 from both sides. So my complement would be 90 minus 2y plus 20. And that would equal the angle that's complement to it. And we do need to simplify. So we would do 90 minus 2y minus 20 would give me x, which would mean 90 minus 20 is 70, minus 2y would give me that other angle. So then when I do the supplement, instead of them adding together to equal 90, they would add together to equal 180. So the same idea applies. We have to subtract this whole thing from both sides. And I would get that 180 minus the 2y plus 20 would give me that angle that I'm looking for, the supplement. And if I simplify it, I would get that that angle is 160 minus 2y. Alright, let's look at question B. An angle measures 3 degrees less than twice the measure of its complement. Find the measure of its complement. Well, first, let's label what we need to know. Let's let x be our angle. So that means the complement would be 90 minus x, right? So in the problem it says an angle measures 3 degrees less than twice the measure of its complement. So my angle is equal to, and I'm going to start out with twice the measure of its complement. So twice, 2 times, the measure of its complement. And then I go back to this 3 degrees less, minus 3. So now I just need to solve this for x so I can go back and find the complement. So x is going to equal to, I need to distribute the 2 to get 180 minus 2x minus 3. So now I need to combine my like terms and move this x to this side. So if I add 2x to both sides, and I combine this 180 and negative 3, I would end up with 3x is equal to 177. And eventually get, when I divide by 3, x is equal to 59. But it doesn't ask me what the angle was, it asked me what the complement was. So I need to do 90 minus my 59 degrees to get that this other angle was 31 degrees. So this would be my complement. Alright, let's look at part C. It says an angle's measure is 12 more than half the measure of its supplement. Find the measure of the angle. So let's do what we did in the last one. Let x be our angle. And let's let 180 minus x be our supplement. And remember, we get that because x plus our supplement has to equal 180. So if I'm looking for my supplement, I would subtract x and get that the supplement was equal to 180 minus x. So let's go ahead and write our equation. It says an angle's measure is 12 degrees more than half the measure of its supplement. So let's start here, half the measure of its supplement. I know my angle is going to equal half, and then we put in the measure of my supplement, which is 180 minus x. And then I go back and see it says, well, it's going to be 12 more than that. So now we just need to solve for x, our angle. So the first thing we have to do is distribute the half. So end up with x is equal to a half times 180 is 90, and then minus a half times negative x is negative a half x, and then plus 12. So we need to move our half x to this side, and we need to combine 90 and 12. So I'm going to combine these two, and I'm going to add a half x to both sides. So when I do that, I end up with 1.5x equals 90 plus 12 is 102. So then the last step of solving would be to divide both sides by 1.5. So when I do that, I get that x is equal to 68, or since I'm talking about an angle, 68 degrees. If I were to ask to go back and find the supplement, I would say 180 minus 68, which would give me 112 degrees.